The UNSS Dauntless hung in space like a metal island, its 3-kilometer length casting a shadow across Earth's orbital shipyards. Captain Kim walked slowly along the observation deck, his boots echoing on the polished floor. For 30 years, this ship had been humanity's shield against the unknown. Now its time had ended. Alien diplomats gathered in neat rows behind him. They tried to hide their relief, but Kim saw it in their postures and gestures. The Tavik representatives' mandibles clicked faster than normal. The Duran diplomats' eye stalks remained fixed on the ship's main cannon. They had feared this vessel for decades. "Sir, 5 minutes until the ceremony begins," said Lieutenant Park, appearing at his side with a data tablet. "The final system shutdown sequence is ready for your command." Kim took the tablet without a word. His finger hovered over the screen. One press, and the most powerful human warship ever built would go dark forever. "Having second thoughts, Captain?" Park asked quietly. 30 years of service, 3 major conflicts, countless lives saved. Kim's voice was low, meant only for his lieutenant. And now we hand it over because politicians signed a piece of paper. "Peace has its price, sir." Kim nodded and pressed his thumb against the tablet. Across the massive ship, lights dimmed as systems began shutting down in sequence. The weapon arrays, capable of vaporizing small moons, powered down with a low hum that faded to silence. Ambassador Lee stepped forward, his formal Galactic Council uniform gleaming with medals and insignia. "The Council appreciates this significant gesture toward lasting peace," he announced to the gathered dignitaries. "The decommissioning of the Dauntless marks a new era of cooperation between all spacefaring races." Behind him, the Tavik representative leaned toward a Hearth diplomat. "I still don't trust them," the Tavik whispered, mandibles twitching. "Humans are unpredictable." "The treaty is clear," Lee replied without turning. His hearing was better than the aliens realized. "The Dauntless will be transferred to civilian control, its military capabilities neutralized." Captain Kim stepped forward and formally presented his command codes to Lee. The ritual was ancient, rooted in naval traditions from Earth's oceans, but the technology was cutting edge. With this transfer, Kim surrendered control of a vessel that could have conquered worlds. "I hereby relinquish command of the UNSS Dauntless," Kim stated, his voice carrying across the observation deck. "May she serve peace as faithfully as she once served in war." The ceremony proceeded as planned. Speeches were made. Hands were shaken. Documents were signed. The aliens began to relax as they watched the mighty ship's weapons being officially disabled. Then came the announcement no one expected. A representative from Frontier Solutions stepped forward. A small, unassuming man named June, who seemed out of place among military personnel and diplomats. "Frontier Solutions is pleased to announce the purchase of the Dauntless for civilian repurposing," June stated calmly. "Transfer of ownership is effective immediately." Silence fell across the observation deck. The alien diplomats exchanged confused glances. "Purchase," the Tavik representative finally sputtered. "A private corporation is buying a supercarrier." "For what purpose?" demanded the Hearth diplomat. June smiled politely. "Frontier Solutions specializes in civilian adaptation of military technology. The details of our project remain proprietary at this time." Captain Kim watched the aliens' reactions with hidden amusement. The price had been announced, a sum that seemed impossibly small for such a massive vessel. Even with its weapons disabled, the Dauntless represented technology worth trillions. "This is highly irregular," the Duran diplomat protested, eye stalks swiveling in agitation. Ambassador Lee stepped in smoothly. "The treaty specifies only that the Dauntless be decommissioned as a military vessel. It places no restrictions on civilian ownership." The Tavik turned to Lee, clicking its mandibles rapidly. What could they possibly want with a warship? Lee's face remained neutral, though Kim detected a hint of pride in his eyes. "Human innovation often takes unexpected paths," he replied diplomatically. As the aliens continued their heated discussion, Kim noticed June quietly typing on a small device. New orders were already being transmitted to the shipyard. Workers would begin arriving tomorrow. Kim leaned closer to Lieutenant Park. "Did you know about this?" Park allowed himself a small smile. "Only rumors, sir. But they say Frontier Solutions has big plans." Kim looked back at the Dauntless, his ship for the past 7 years. In the fading light of its powered-down systems, he could almost imagine it beginning to transform into something new, something unexpected. Like humanity itself, the Dauntless would adapt and survive. Diplomat Choi tapped her fingers nervously on the polished table as the emergency Galactic Council session began. 1 year had passed since the humans had decommissioned the legendary Dauntless. Now something strange was happening. "The images you are about to see were captured 3 days ago," announced Council Leader Mock, his voice grave. The room darkened as holographic projections appeared above the central table. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. The Dauntless was still recognizable by its massive hull, but it had changed dramatically. Analyst Song stepped forward, pointing to various sections of the projected image. "As you can see, they've completely removed the main cannon arrays and weapon systems as promised." He paused, highlighting another section. "However, they've tripled the engine capacity and added these structures." He zoomed in on large transparent domes that now sprouted from the hull like bubbles. "Are those agricultural domes?" asked a Hearth representative, leaning forward in disbelief. "It appears so," confirmed Song. "Our scans detect massive plant life inside. And that's not all." He shifted the image to show the interior. Entire military decks have been transformed into what appear to be self-contained ecosystems. Forests, lakes, even what appears to be farmland. The council erupted in confused discussion. The Tavik representative clicked his mandibles rapidly, a sign of agitation. "I knew we couldn't trust them. They're planning something." "You turned a supercarrier into a colony ship?" she asked incredulously. Han smiled, looking out at the forests and lakes that now filled spaces once dedicated to war. "We've always been good at repurposing," she replied simply. "Wouldn't you rather see this vessel carry life to new worlds instead of bringing death to existing ones?" Dr. Jai had no immediate answer. She watched human children playing beneath trees growing in soil that covered what had once been the most feared weapon platform in the galaxy. It was not what anyone had expected. Not for the first time, the humans had surprised everyone. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so loud. Delegates from 27 spacefaring species shouted over each other as Dr. G's inspection report was displayed for all to see. Images of gardens growing in former weapons bays, schools in command centers, and families living in crew quarters flashed across massive screens. "Order. I demand order," shouted Council Leader Mock, banging his ceremonial staff on the floor. The noise gradually subsided, though angry murmurs continued. The Morak delegate, General Vax, rose to his full height. His scaled skin flushed deep red with anger as he slammed his fist onto the table, cracking its surface. "This is clearly a deception," he roared, sharp teeth gleaming. "No warship can truly be decommissioned while its structural integrity remains." Vax pointed accusingly at the human representative. "The Dauntless was the most powerful weapon in your arsenal. Now you claim it's a peaceful vessel. We are not fools." Ambassador Universe sat calmly amidst the storm. A small, composed woman with gray hair pulled back tightly. She waited for Vax to finish before speaking. "The treaty required demilitarization, not destruction," she said, her voice quiet but carrying clearly through the chamber. "The Earthseed is no longer a military vessel by any definition. Its weapons are gone. Its targeting systems removed. Its military databases wiped. Then what is its purpose?" demanded the Hearth delegate. "Why spend such resources on this conversion?" Yoon activated her own display, showing images of Earth's crowded cities and depleted resources. "Humanity has always sought new frontiers. 10,000 volunteers from 30 Earth nations have signed up for the journey to the Sagittarius Arm. They will establish humanity's first colony beyond known space." General Vax snorted in disbelief. Volunteers or soldiers? He demanded. This colony ship could easily become an invasion force once beyond our sensors. Families. Hume replied simply. She displayed new images. Children playing in agricultural domes, elderly people tending gardens, couples moving into living quarters, scientists, teachers, farmers, engineers, people seeking a new beginning. Diplomat Choi, who had been silent until now, spoke up. The inspection team found no hidden weapon systems. The ship's resources are dedicated to life support, agriculture, and propulsion. They could be rebuilt, insisted Vax. With what materials? Countered Choi. The weapons-grade alloys and components were removed from the ship entirely. We verified this. The debate continued for hours, then days. Some species supported the human initiative. Others remained deeply suspicious. The Morak and their allies demanded the project be shut down immediately. The Nari and more peaceful species argued for allowing the mission. On the third day, Dr. G requested permission to address the council. The Nari scientist's testimony carried special weight, as her species had no political alliance with humans. I examined every section of the vessel, she stated, her compound eyes sweeping the chamber. What the humans have created is not a weapon but a marvel of engineering. They have transformed an instrument of destruction into a cradle for life. Can you guarantee they have no military intentions? Asked the Tavik representative. Dr. G's antennae twitched thoughtfully. No species can guarantee another's intentions, but I saw nothing that suggested deception. What I saw was hope. The council chamber grew quiet as she continued. In my species' history, we never developed weapons of mass destruction. We cannot fully understand what it means to turn away from such power once possessed. Perhaps this is something we should encourage, not prevent. After 5 days of heated debate, a compromise was reached. The council would allow the mission to proceed with a critical condition. Alien observers would be required aboard Earthseed throughout its journey. These observers would have authority to report any military conversions immediately through quantum communication. When volunteers were requested, Dr. G rose from her seat. I volunteer, she said, her voice clear in the suddenly quiet chamber. I want to witness what happens when humans turn swords into plowshares. Her use of the ancient human metaphor surprised many. Ambassador Yoon's eyes widened slightly. General Vax objected immediately. The Nari are too trusting. We need military observers. Then send them as well. Dr. G responded calmly. But I will go. This journey may change our understanding not just of humans, but of what is possible when a species chooses a new path. As the council session ended, Ambassador Yoon approached Dr. G privately. Why did you volunteer? She asked curiously. Your species has never shown interest in deep space exploration. Dr. G's compound eyes focused on the human. Because if you succeed, it changes everything we believe about your kind. And if you're planning something else, her antennae straightened. Then someone should be there to see it. Yoon smiled slightly. Fair enough. Welcome aboard, Doctor. The gentle hum of Earthseed's engines had become background noise to everyone aboard during the 3 months of their journey. Dr. Jai had adapted to life among humans, studying their social structures and observing their dedication to their new home among the stars. She had begun to believe this mission truly was what the humans claimed, a peaceful journey to establish a new colony. Then the alarms began to blare. All personnel to emergency stations, announced Captain Baz's voice over the communication system. This is not a drill. Dr. G rushed from her laboratory to the bridge. The corridor was filled with humans moving quickly but calmly to their assigned positions. She noticed how different this was from military drills she had observed. Parents carried children, elderly colonists were assisted by younger ones, and there was concern but not panic. On the bridge, Captain Boz stood before a large display showing the swirling mass of energy directly in their path. Colors twisted and folded in ways that hurt Dr. G's compound eyes to observe. What is it? She asked. joining the captain. Spatial anomaly, they replied grimly. Nothing like it in our charts or databases. We detected it only an hour ago. Science Officer Kang was frantically analyzing data at her station. The radiation signature is unlike anything we've encountered. It's penetrating our standard shields. As if to emphasize her point, the lights flickered briefly. Dr. G's antennae detected a subtle change in the air circulation. Report, ordered by. The agricultural systems are failing, Kang reported, looking up from her screens. Radiation is disrupting photosynthesis in domes 3 through 7. Plants are dying at an accelerated rate. Dr. G felt a chill run through her body. The agricultural domes were Earthseed's lifeline. Without them, the 10,000 colonists would starve long before reaching their destination. Can we go around it? Asked Dr. J. Chief Navigator Min shook his head. The anomaly extends too far in all directions. At our current speed and fuel reserves, a detour would add years to our journey. And we don't have years of food stored. Bai added quietly. Captain Ba called an emergency meeting in the conference room adjacent to the bridge. Dr. G joined the ship's senior staff around the table, acutely aware of her dual role as both scientific advisor and council observer. If we can't find a solution, we'll face starvation within months, Ba stated plainly once everyone was seated. Our food reserves won't last beyond 4 months, and at least half the agricultural domes are already affected. Dr. J studied the faces around the table. There was fear there, but also determination. These weren't soldiers facing battle, but civilians facing survival. What about increasing power to the standard shields? Suggested Medical Director Nam. Chief Engineer Moon shook her head. We've already tried. The radiation simply passes through them, as if they weren't there. A heavy silence fell over the room. Children's laughter echoed faintly from a nearby recreation area, making the silence even more profound. There is a way, Moon said hesitantly, breaking the silence, but it would require activating some systems we didn't entirely remove. Dr. G's antennae twitched with suspicion. What systems? Moon exchanged a glance with Captain Ba before continuing. When we converted the Dauntless, we were ordered to remove all military systems, but the defensive shield generators were integrated into the ship's main structure. Removing them completely would have compromised hull integrity. So we repurposed them, Bai added, converted them to standard civilian shields. But their original configurations remain in the computer system, Moon continued. The military-grade shields were designed to block exotic weapon radiation. They could be modified to protect our agricultural domes. That would technically violate our agreement with the Council, Dr. G noted, feeling conflicted. Her duty was clear. Report any military systems immediately. Captain Ba stood up and walked to the viewport. Outside, children had gathered to watch the swirling colors of the anomaly, unaware of the danger it posed. As captain, the decision falls to me, Ba said, watching the children. I choose life over politics. He turned to face Dr. G directly. You're the council observer. I won't activate those systems without your knowledge. But know this, without them, these people will die. Not quickly in battle, but slowly from hunger. Dr. Jai stood beside him at the viewport. A small girl waved at them, her face lit by the strange colors of the anomaly. The agreement specified no active military systems, Dr. G said carefully. It said nothing about defensive measures to protect civilian lives. She turned to Engineer Moon. Show me these systems. I want to verify they are truly defensive only. As they left the conference room, Dr. G realized she had just made a decision that would either save 10,000 lives or possibly trigger an interstellar incident. Either way, there would be no turning back. For 37 days, Earthseed struggled through the spatial anomaly. The modified shield systems worked, but not perfectly. 3 agricultural domes were lost completely. Food rationing became strict. Children received full portions while adults made do with less. Even Dr. G voluntarily reduced her specialized Nari nutrient intake to extend supplies. Then, without warning, the anomaly ended. Earthseed emerged into normal space, its sensors immediately cataloging their surroundings. "Captain," called Navigator Min, his voice shaking slightly. "You need to see this." Captain Ba moved to the navigation station, followed closely by Dr. Jai. On the screen, a star system appeared, one not on any Galactic Council charts. A yellow sun burned at its center, with 9 planets orbiting at various distances. "Third planet," Min said simply, enhancing the image. The view screen showed a blue-green world, swirling with white clouds. Oceans covered most of its surface, with land masses of varying sizes scattered across it. Readings showed water, oxygen, and nitrogen in the atmosphere, a perfect match for human life. On the bridge, humans and aliens alike cast the sight. It was everything they had hoped to find, appearing almost like a gift after their ordeal. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. G, her antennae quivering with excitement. As a scientist, the discovery of a new habitable world was momentous. "Begin full planetary scan," ordered Ba. "Prepare a landing team. We'll need complete environmental analysis before anyone sets foot on the surface." As the crew rushed to follow orders, Dr. G moved to her communication station. Her duty was clear. She needed to report to the Galactic Council about the military systems that had been activated. She spent hours carefully composing her message. When finished, she read it once more before sending. The humans did indeed retain some military capabilities, but only those necessary for survival. In doing so, they saved not only themselves, but also all alien observers aboard. The defensive systems were immediately deactivated once we cleared the anomaly. I recommend no sanctions be imposed, as their actions were taken to preserve life, not as military aggression. She sent the message, knowing it would take weeks for a response. By then, the colony would likely be established. Over the next days, probes confirmed the planet was suitable for human habitation. Captain Ba ordered landing craft prepared as Earthseed established a stable orbit. Dr. G found herself wandering through the ship during these preparations. The mood was electric. After generations of dreaming about new worlds, humanity was about to step onto one. In the largest agricultural dome, she found Director Han. The dome had suffered during their passage through the anomaly, but most plants had survived. Children played beneath fruit-bearing trees, seemingly unaware of how close they had come to starvation. "You knew something like this might happen," Dr. G said, joining Han. "That's why you kept some systems." Han smiled, watching the children. "Space is dangerous. The unknown is dangerous. We prepare for the worst but hope for the best. That's how humans have always survived." "The Council may not see it that way," Dr. G cautioned. Han nodded. "We understand risks, including political ones." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the children play. One small boy climbed a tree that had been grown from seeds brought from Earth. The tree now bore fruit in a star system humans had never visited before. "Tomorrow, the first landing team goes down," Han said. "Would you join them? Your scientific expertise would be valuable. And," she paused, "it would mean something to have a representative of the Galactic Council present when we take our first steps." Dr. G felt honored by the request. "I would be pleased to join them." The next morning, Dr. Jai stood in the landing craft alongside 20 humans. Through the viewport, she could see the blue-green planet growing larger. Behind them, Earthseed hung in space, once the most feared warship in the galaxy, now the mother to a new human colony. As the craft entered the atmosphere, Dr. G reflected on her journey. She had come as an observer, suspicious of human intentions. Now she stood with them as they embarked on a new chapter of their history. The landing craft touched down on a grassy plain. Captain Ba opened the door, letting in the first breath of air from this new world. It smelled sweet and clean. "Shall we?" he asked, offering Dr. G a place beside him. Together, they stepped onto the soil of a world no intelligent species had ever walked upon before. Behind them, more landing craft descended from Earthseed. The massive vessel gleamed in the light of a new sun, no longer an instrument of war, but a cradle of life. Dr. G realized that this transformation was what made humans both frightening and fascinating. No other species would think to turn the galaxy's most powerful warship into the seed of a new civilization. As the colonists began unloading equipment and setting up their first shelters, children ran laughing across fields that would soon become their home. Like the Earth seed itself, humanity had found a new purpose in the stars.